All right, so by now you guys should have the AIM 4.7 in your notebooks. It should be written exactly as it's shown here. What can we learn about Spartan culture through Plutarch's primary source? And by the end of the lesson, you should be able to answer this question, hopefully. So we just went over this quote, which is a famous Spartan quote, essentially amounting to when it comes to warfare, you either win or die trying. And a lot of you guys kind of had similar ideas about how you interpret that. So away we go. All right, I'll give you a second. So we mentioned this the other day that women in Sparta had more rights and responsibility as compared to women in a lot of other civilizations, including Athens. And it's basically has to do with the militaristic kind of focus of their culture. So if men are either at war or training to be at war, etc., you better figure out who's going to kind of operate the rest of society, right? There's a lot of other aspects of society that need attention other than just warfare. So because the men were so kind of warfare centric, that meant that the women had to kind of take dominant positions in the rest of society. So women were allowed to own businesses. Women were owned about a third of the land. They were given education, both the arts and athletics, because they were going to have to be the educators of future generations. So they're in charge of just about everything outside of the army. Businesses and agriculture and the food supply in general, and all these other kind of social, functions of a society, all of this was overseen by women. Um, uh, the movie 300 is graphic and violent and certainly rated R, and I'm not here to recommend, watch it because you're all not of age to be watching rated R movies. So I can't recommend that you watch it. But if you were to watch it, in that movie, they kind of make this very, very clear. Women are revered and highly respected, and they kind of take a dominant position. I don't want to say dominant, but they take positions that are of equal import to the men. And that's something that we see here in Sparta that we don't really see anywhere else, and we will not see anywhere else for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So they are super duper far ahead of their time with regard to women's rights and responsibilities. Now, is it because of the militarism or is it because they believe in equality? That's a different question, okay? But the result is that women have more rights and responsibilities in Sparta than they do elsewhere. All right, one more slide and that's it. All right, so we're going to learn a little bit about Sparta today based on the writings of this guy named Plutarch. So Plutarch was born and lived in Caronia, Greece, between the years 45 CE, Common Era, we used to call that AD, and 125. He was a Greek philosopher, biographer, and essayist. So when we think about source reliability based on some of the things that we talked about yesterday, there's a couple of things to consider here. As far as the speaker goes, Plutarch, he's a Greek philosopher, biographer, and essayist. So this guy is an intellectual. He's from Greece, so he's in the right neighborhood. As far as reliability goes, we have reason to believe that this guy is probably educated on the subject. So it kind of lends credence to the things he has to say. Now, there's other reasons why maybe he might be unreliable. For starters, the time frame. He's living after the fact, after Sparta's kind of dominant period. So he's not witnessing all of these things firsthand. So this is not necessarily a primary source in the sense that it's written during the time that he is actually writing. It is a primary source in the sense that, it was written with fresh eyes pretty much in a time period that was very close to that, but it's not, spot on as far as the time frame goes. Another reason why you might want to consider him unreliable is because he's Greek, right? So he's probably not going to say anything too terrible about Greek civilizations or cultures, right? So, there's reasons why he should be considered reliable, and there's reasons why he should be considered unreliable. So it's really up to you how you kind of weigh those things. And look, no source is totally 100% reliable. That's a rarity, right? So there are reasons why any source should be considered both reliable and or unreliable. It's just a matter of how you balance them out. But it's important to think about source reliability with regard to how valid the information is at all times. That's a skill that you guys are certainly going to need going forward.